Today's show is brought to you by Wealthbox. This week's episode is sponsored by the #1 rated CRM software for financial advisors. If you're using Redtail, Salesforce, or any other clunky CRM, go check out Wealthbox at wealthbox.com. Tens of thousands of advisors have switched to Wealthbox, and it's super easy to do. Register for Wealthbox's AI Wealth Tech Week, an upcoming week of daily webinars featuring Wealthbox's AI integrated partners like Jump, Levitate, Zox, WealthFeed, and more. See how CRM and AI can help you as an advisor build and manage your business like never before. Register for AI Wealth Tech Week at wealthbox.com/AI. That's wealthbox.com/AI. Hey guys, welcome to The Unlock. My name is Downtown Josh Brown, here with my co-host Michael Batnick, and today we're going to dispel some myths and get into some of the exciting opportunities around advisor use of AI. What does AI stand for?
Well, it's artificial intelligence, Josh.
Wow. All right.
We got a real pro here.
We got a real pro. Guys, Alec Crawford is with us, and I want to tell you a little something about Alec before we begin. He is the founder and CEO of Artificial Intelligence Risk. AI Risk is a leader in AI safety, security, and compliance. The company created the first AI governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity management software platform. Their customers range from small businesses to large financial institutions. Alec was a partner and chief investment risk officer at Lord Abbett. And I know you've been at a million other firms, Ziff Brothers, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. You have spent a career on the street, but I want people to understand that your training was initially in computer science.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love AI. I've been doing it since the 1980s.
That's when AI was cool.
Yeah, it's when AI was cool. Yeah, as an undergrad, I was building neural networks, or what we call deep learning from scratch. Now you can just go on Google and get it in 10 seconds.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun. But obviously, we didn't have the computer power to do a whole lot. Like I was basically teaching computers to play poker, but they weren't going to recognize a cat image or anything like that, or do any trading.
How did you know that there was an opportunity to take computer science, bring it to Wall Street, and make a lot of money? Like, what was the connection there?
Yeah, it wasn't so much that. It was more. I was one of those computer whiz kids. Got a computer when I was 13. Taught myself to program. Went to school for it. So by the time I graduated, I was like, I want to do something different, right? And that's why I went to Wall Street.
Now, you and I just missed each other at Harvard. So I'm sure like we could swap stories later. But just if you could. From a big picture perspective, as somebody who has spent a career at the crossroads of computers and investment, based on everything you've seen and done in this industry, on the scale of 1 to 10, how big would you rank the AI opportunity for companies and people working in this industry?
Yeah, I think it's probably a 9 out of 10 right now.
Okay.
And, moving to a 10 out of 10 in the next 10 years. The Bill Gates quote is, people kind of overestimate what technology is going to do the next year and underestimate it in 10 years. And I think that's exactly what's going on.
Okay.
And that people are spending tons of money on it right now. You'll see a little bit of return on that, but the ROI is not going to be great in year one. In 10 years from now, if you're not using AI, you're already dead.
So I wanted to ask how financial advisors today, understanding that we're in the infancy, are currently utilizing large language models and other AI tools. What's the current state of the landscape?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of them are not using them yet. The compliance team or the legal team has kind of locked it down and said, don't do it. So maybe they're doing something on ChatGPT.
Shout out to all the compliance people out there. We appreciate you.
And so maybe they're doing a little bit on ChatGPT, or they've been told, do stuff on ChatGPT, that's fine, but like don't put anything confidential on there.
No client information.
No client information, right. Exactly. And what's starting to happen is now there are apps coming out, right? Or there are tools coming out for advisors to use that you start with. If you're a small business owner, which you basically are if you own a small or a sub 20-person RIA, well, that's where it starts, right? You need an executive assistant. Do you have an executive assistant who can help you buy plane tickets and sports tickets? Great. So that stuff is starting to get created. Obviously, you got people using stuff for, hey, I got a meeting transcript and I can summarize that and get notes.
I
and
wanted to
stuff.
ask you about that. Right now, probably the most prevalent use case is AI note taking. So a meeting where there's an automated note taker that then summarizes the meeting for everyone who is in it and possibly sends instructions from that meeting to various support personnel within the firm. That's like right now, that seems to be what most advisors are utilizing AI for.
Yeah, that's super easy to do. You've got tons of apps that are doing that. You've got Zoom, Teams will do that. And you can summarize that in any of the different chatbots. A couple things to be careful of. One is, and this is kind of a cautionary tale, right? So you have it now, the company name excluded, but board meeting, record the whole meeting, got the transcript of the meeting, it gets automatically sent to all the participants. Guess what? There was one participant in the meeting for 15 minutes in a 4-hour meeting. He gets sent the transcript, and later on in that meeting, like, oh, we're going to fire this guy. In the transcript.
In the same meeting.
Right. So you got to be careful, like, who's in charge of the transcript? Where does it go? It's obviously going to, in many cases, contain confidential information, right?
It's like Frank Drebin forgetting to turn his mic off when he went to the bathroom.
Right. Have you taken a look at any of the AI note-taking products that are being purpose-built for the advisory space?
I haven't. I think they're all, it's hard to differentiate them right now.
Okay.
Whether it's, you can do it in Zoom and Teams. There's a bunch of other ones like Zeppelin, for example. It's just hard to differentiate them. I think the big differentiator is going to be when you can summarize what's in there, create action items, push that out to your CRM, and they become, things, boxes for different people to check. That's a game changer, and that's coming. That'll be coming next couple of months.
Let me ask you this: do you think that there's room for 10 new players in the industry, or is it going to be? You mentioned Zoom. Is it going to be the Zooms of the world? CRMs, like, is Orion going to give this to us?
Google Meet,
like all that stuff. Yeah. Is it going to be the incumbents, or is there going to be a new batch?
That's a good question. I think you'll get a little bit of both. I think the really big ones are like Zooms. They don't really care about advisors, right? They're unlikely to do it.
So I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that the easy question is like, well, why wouldn't Google do this? Well, it's because it's not their business.
Yeah.
Like it's not that they couldn't, but they're going to serve just our vertical. No, they're going to build horizontally for every industry, and it's not probably going to be exactly what the RIA advisor is looking for.
That's exactly right. So I think the advisor's got a lot of different things they can do with AI, whether it's, content creation for social media, meeting summaries, whatever. But what's not going to happen is advisors are not going to buy 20 different apps to do 20 different things, right? They're going to want like 1 or 2 new apps that consolidate everything. And I think that's what we'll be in a couple years, although not right away, right? It's going to take some time.
I want to read something to you. There was an ACA 2024 Investment Management Compliance Testing Survey, and it concluded 46% of respondents named AI as a chief concern, a massive boost from the prior year when it wasn't even listed. But when it came to firms' approaches to allowing employees to use AI tools and LLMs like ChatGPT, 39% of respondents had, quote, no formal approach in place, 28% formally allowed their use, and 12% of firms had a total ban on AI in place. To which Parker Entz, who is a co-founder of Jump Advisor AI, which is one of those purpose-built tools, said, which 12% of RIAs will be out of business 5 years from now? Do you view it the same way? Is it an emergency to have a policy and dip your toe in the water so that you don't get left behind in this industry? How do you frame the risk of not learning to use these tools?
Yeah, I don't think it's an emergency this year. I think he's right in that, 5 years from now, you're not doing it. You're probably out of business.
Okay, so every advisor watching and listening to this will be using some AI within their practice, you're saying?
I think so.
Why out of business? Why is it going to be so important that you incorporate this? Like, what sort of efficiencies is it going to create? Why such a strong statement?
Yeah. Well, I think that the ability to create efficiencies, not just for the individual advisor, but also the entire team around it. So think about compliance right now, right? You got to look at everything that goes in social media. You got to look at emails. You got to do a whole bunch of stuff. If you can basically automate that through AI or a lot of that creates huge efficiencies for that person. A lot of this stuff is going to turn into a way more data-driven business, and AI is going to allow kind of the gathering or consolidation of all that data in one spot.
Is this more about growing a firm, or is this more about preserving margins, or is it both?
I think it's both, because I think within the next year or so, you'll be able to do incredible kind of lead generation.
That soon?
Using AI, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let's put up this slide, John. So Michael asked the question, like, how do you think advisors won't be using AI? What do you think are the things that people are saying that are going to turn out to be not so true? And what we're looking at here, this is your slide on creating and using AI agents. And maybe some of this stuff is more realistic than what you're hearing outside of it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think people keep on saying, "Oh, we're going to use AI to manage portfolios." That sounds a little bit less likely, or to me, right? Like,
not going to happen.
Yeah, not going to happen.
Meaning, we're going to turn over a client's portfolio to software. I mean, don't we to some extent do a little bit of that now?
Yeah, I mean, completely turn it over. Like, oh, which stocks should we own, and how
like
are we
the
going to
active
size these positions?
Portion.
I don't think that's going to happen, right? There's already kind of like quant funds out there. That's what they do. They're already using machine learning and all kinds of tools to do that.
And they'd love for us to do that.
Right. They'd love for it. Yeah. But
come on in, play with us.
Yeah, exactly. Financial advisors, not a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, so that's one thing I think people are talking about ain't going to happen.
Okay. 3 years from now, the modern RIA in the year 2027, I'll be 50 years old. So
I'll be 60.
For some perspective. All right. 3 years from now, the modern RIA is using AI-assisted tools to generate new prospects somehow on the internet. They are recording their meetings and auto-summarizing them. They are sending instructions directly to a CRM so that support staff has tasks pre-baked in for them as a result of these meetings. They are, I'm guessing, on the compliance side, monitoring all emailing, text messaging, meetings, schedules, conversations, action items. All of this stuff is AI-powered, AI-enabled. That's where you think this is headed.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I think AI is going to do is really turn into the command center for the financial advisor. So right now you got the swivel chair problem, right? You're sitting over here looking at your portfolio risk analysis, and you're writing an email.
Too many
and then
screens,
you're using some other app or whatever. You got a million apps. Literally, you're going to be able to, and you can already do some of this today, talk to the AI and go, hey, which clients that have more than $5 million AUM have I not talked to this month? Oh, these 3 guys. All right, we'll call the first one, right?
So that is possible today, but it requires a lot of typing and maybe even some downloading and some Excel.
Right.
And this is the stuff that's going to go away.
Totally go away.
You're going to be able to interact with your business as though it were, I don't want to say sentient, but as though it were talking back to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you'll be able to do stuff like, hey, which clients do you think are most at risk? Or, things like that. It'll literally be able to answer those questions.
Okay. So I don't know what the thing would be called. Like, it's not Siri, but like having a conversation, whether it's you're typing or you're talking, just saying, show me all of the accounts that are currently carrying more than 5% cash balance.
Absolutely.
And then pull out the accounts that need that cash balance because there's some spending plan, and just like give me the results. I don't know how long that would take right now utilizing Orion or whatever people have in place, but this stuff is all going to be instant.
Yeah, absolutely.
One role that this is going to eliminate, I think, is the power planner. I think that is a notoriously difficult seat to fill. It's typically a young person who needs training, needs coaching, mentoring, development, needs a career path, needs raises.
Healthcare.
Eventually needs to graduate from that seat and turn into either a full-blown advisor or something more senior than the power planner. And think about what the advisor has to do to train that person. And then eventually, if they have a great power planner, then they lose them, and then they have to start from zero. It's just not a great role for anybody. Maybe it's good for the young person, which raises all sorts of other issues. But that particular role will be automated.
I totally agree. And if you look across financial services, similar roles will also be automated. So think about Goldman Sachs every year hires 100 analysts or whatever in M&A. And what do? They spend the weekends creating M&A decks, right? Like, oh, this company buying that company. They literally have told us that they've got an AI system that can create that deck in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's gone.
Like, are they hiring 100 of those guys next year? I don't think so.
So
right?
This brings up a bigger societal issue, which maybe we don't have a ton of time for today. But a lot of these jobs, the output is not necessarily the thing. It's the on-the-job experience and training that makes those jobs valuable to the organization. So you might be in a situation where you're automating the least senior people's work, but then you don't have those people to take their place higher up in the ranks 3 years later when they've paid their dues and learned what they've learned. If you sort of hollow out that paraplanner role, what does that mean for advisor development industry-wide?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but the other thing that's happening is people are crossing industries too, right? So you could hire your next advisor from, someone who worked trading at Morgan Stanley or something like that, right? They don't have to come out as a power planner.
Yeah, but not really. Not to push back too hard, but you can't pay that person. If somebody's coming in at 37 years old from a previous career, they're already getting an adult salary. We can't just pay them to be an advisor without any.
So what would you say?
I mean, becoming a junior advisor or something like that, right?
What would you say to the idea that it's actually the younger advisors who are, they have the most to risk from the implementation of AI, but the other side of that coin is they might be the people most readily willing to adopt these tools and become masters, because it's great to have all this convenience, but if you don't know how to use the tools or what they're capable of, it's probably also not the greatest thing.
Yeah. So I think there will be that bifurcation there, right? If you're a young person that's really into AI, knows how to use it, you win, right? If you don't, you lose. So that's a pretty good analysis. I mean, so I'd mentioned a book earlier, this Age of AI book by Henry Kissinger, and super cool book. And they talk a lot about this stuff, like what's going to happen with society.
Wait, Kissinger wrote a book on AI?
Yeah, he wrote with Eric Schmidt and Daniel Huntenlocker.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So pretty cool book. But I mean, a lot of it is philosophical, first country to get to AGI kind of wins in terms of, strategy, in terms of military strategy, right? Things like that, right?
Okay.
And he also talks about this whole hey, we got to get this right. Otherwise we have, huge unemployment 10 years from now because all these young people don't have jobs because instead we're using AI. So that's something that society needs to solve.
You wrote you won an award recently, the Artificial Intelligence Risk. Your firm was named as Waters Rankings, quote, best cybersecurity provider for the AIR GPT AI cybersecurity platform. What is that, and why do you think you won the award?
Yeah, so that's our platform that does governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity for AI, and also think about it as the operating system for AI. So you've got 5 different apps. They all get consolidated there, so you can just basically use the command line and use them, kind of like we were talking about earlier with the command center for financial advisors. So that award is they actually poll their clients. It's not 3 gnomes in a room picking a company, right? It's basically a survey. And there are 2 things we do that are very rare in AI right now. One is we sandbox AI and our tool inside companies' private clouds and give them access to all their data, documents, APIs, SQL databases, which no one else is really doing right now. The second piece of the puzzle there for cybersecurity is we basically have detection tools if AI is getting hacked. So I'm not super worried about one of my advisors trying to hack AI, but what's happening and what's going to happen in the future is you're going to have malicious actors embedding kind of jailbreak attempts and things to attack AIs, even inside documents.
Yeah.
So you might pull a document into your AI thinking
this is what I think is the biggest risk is you import something during this data ingestion process that is malignant or is a trapdoor or something.
That's exactly right. It's kind of clicking on the wrong link in an email, right? That's what's going to start happening inside AI, and it's not prevalent now. A year from now, it's going to be a nightmare, right?
Okay.
And you're going to need tools like this
so,
to protect yourself.
So your platform is designed to detect this type of instance and stop it from occurring.
That's right. So think about it as, back in the day, think about these virus scanners, right? Which we still kind of use. Remember McAfee came out and you're oh man, I need to get a virus scanner. So this is basically virus scanner for AI, right?
Okay.
Everything that comes in, you look at it and go, does this look bad? Does this match the pattern of something bad? block it before it gets to the AI. So
How do you think we're going to vet and diligence these companies, and who's going to do it? Like, whose job is it? Is it the executives at the company? Is it a chief compliance officer? Is it a COO? Is it what the advisors are wanting? Like this is a brand new category and technology that we probably don't fully understand. So whose job is that going to be?
Well, right now I can tell you who we're talking to, which is typically COOs, CTOs, and chief information security officers. The big one right now is the information security officers, because if they've got advisors literally going out to the web and using ChatGPT or whatever, they're just hitting the panic button in terms of like, oh my God, they're going to accidentally give away client or other secret information.
Yeah. You don't want an advisor typing their client's identity specific data into a GPT.
Right.
We can't have this.
Disaster, right? So what we do is, and even if you tell people don't do that, they'll do it on their phone, on their personal laptop, whatever.
Especially
eventually
if it saves them time.
Yeah, eventually they're going to screw up, right?
Yeah.
So the alternative is to use software like ours, where everything's sandbox, everything's inside your firewall, nothing gets out, and it includes bringing ChatGPT or Mistral or any one of the other one of these models inside your firewall. So only you know what's going on. We can't even see the data. We don't even know what the query is.
So your product is called RIA GPT.
Yeah, so we have RIA GPT is
great name.
Thank you.
Great name.
Is our product for individual RIAs for $49 a month. And then we have our enterprise version, which is for anything from a couple dozen to 1,000.
But that's the sandbox that you're describing.
Exactly.
So instead of using ChatGPT, you can use RIA GPT and it's contained.
Correct.
It's not a search or a query or a prompt that's going out there into the world. It's happening within your own private cloud that's already secure.
Exactly.
Okay. So this is pretty critical when you talk to the CISO or the CTO or someone senior at an RIA that's keeping them up at night.
Yeah, they get it in about 30 seconds, right?
Okay.
Like, oh, everything, we own our data. Like, not only that, for the compliance team, everything's monitored, right? So if there's a quiet regulator comes in and goes, hey, we noticed that you were, trading a lot of the stock right before earnings, we're concerned. Was anybody using AI? You can literally produce the transcript of the advisor, of the advisor's prompts and the AI response and that kind of stuff.
Where do you think regulators are with respect to AI?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michael. I think so. So the current thinking is that the SEC is going to release their final version of their proposal for predictive analytics and AI in October now. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't work there.
It's in 2 months.
Yeah, so pretty soon, right? And
when you say final proposal, this is not a request for comment anymore. This is the rule that we want to put forth.
Yeah, I mean, they might be legally required to request for comment, but I don't think they're going to listen a whole lot, right? So I think at this point, they're just like, okay, we've listened to what everybody said. Everybody complained about how broad the rule was and things like that when they proposed it last July. And I think they've figured it out. They'll put it out in October, and then it'll be done by the end of the year.
What happens typically, from my experience, is that they'll put the rule out, and then they'll let a little bit of time elapse, and then they'll do a sweep, and they'll want to see what firms are now using AI now that we have this rule. What firms are using it, and are they using it in accordance with what we said? And they've done that with robo tools, and they've done that with like various technological advancements over the years. This will probably be a similar trajectory. Yeah,
totally agree. And they've actually already done that with the big companies, right? So, my understanding is the regulators, broadly defined in the U.S., have sent out hundreds, if not thousands, of basically questionnaires to large and medium-sized financial companies, just saying, with everything about AI, what are you using AI for? Who's allowed to use it? All kinds of stuff like that. And I'm sure that's going to be included in their sweeps later this year, which will probably be through October. And then you're right, once the rule's finalized, then they're going to circle back and do it again.
You want to take a look at the platform?
Go ahead.
All right, let's put the deck up, Daniel. One of the things that I think makes you guys unique is that you're trying to address all aspects of AI. Not one killer app or one specific use case. You're trying to build something that encompasses the entirety of the AI tool set.
That's exactly right. And we can basically think about it as the operating system for AI. So if you wake up one day and go, hey, we've got this really cool portfolio risk AI tool, great, we can host that, right? So as well as things like we can currently get transcripts automatically from Teams and Zoom and things like that. And you can just literally go into the command line and say, hey, get my meeting with Michael, get the transcript from yesterday for my meeting with Michael. Okay, now summarize it. What are the action items out of that? You don't have to go find the transcript. You can just ask for it and it will find it for you.
What else is on here? So you have risk management, governance, compliance, cybersecurity.
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand what each of these things are. So by governance, I mean building out AI agents, assigning what the AI agents are allowed to do. In other words, what data are you allowed to access, what APIs you're allowed to access, and then assigning them to individual users, because your COO is going to want different agents and has different access to the firm than an individual financial advisor, right? So you got to be able to do that. It's also permission aware, meaning that one flaw of setting up AI tools and agents is just saying, hey, once you're in there, you can do whatever you want, right? Like that's not good, right? You need permission awareness. If an advisor shouldn't have access to someone else's accounts, they better not through the AI, or you're going to have a problem very quickly.
So that's an important point. The way that firms use Salesforce and CRMs, everything is walled off from different employees for different reasons. This is every organization. You've got a firm, you've got some people with varying levels of access from other employees. So your point is that same thing has to be repeated in the AI layer of the firm.
Absolutely. And that's not necessarily happening right now with a lot of AI. That's something we focus a lot on. By risk management, is a lot of it's around personal and customer information. So one of the things that our software does is detects and can either allow, block, or encrypt that information if it's going to the AI. So maybe you never want social security numbers going to the AI, for example, right? You can just block that. Or maybe one person in HR is allowed to use them, but you want to encrypt them before they go to AI.
So some things should just not even be part of the recipe.
Yeah, exactly. And then by compliance, again, we don't know what the final version of the rule is, but one of the more important things is to keep track of what you're using AI for, right? You don't want a situation where regulator comes in and says, hey, Michael bought a lot of this stock, right before earnings. Like, was he using AI? Well, we have no idea. We don't know what he asked.
Well, to that point, you said earlier that if you're not using this in 5 years, you're out of business. I would say that all of the medium to large size firms are going to be using this, just 100%. For the smaller firms, it's going to be really challenging. If you're a solo advisor and you're not affiliated with one of the independents or a roll-up, how do you do all this?
Yeah, I think there are going to be offerings. I think our main focus is obviously governance, risk, compliance, cybersecurity, but we're adding like agents and basically apps onto our platform all the time because advisors ask us to do it, right? And we just put them on there.
So
and then they have access.
Bring your own GPT, basically,
or bring your own AI app and add it in there, right?
Are they picking from a menu, like a la carte of what your offerings are, or do they get the whole thing?
They get the whole thing, and it's pretty easy to set up new ones and customize them. And we'll have a client. So, for example, a client came to us and said, "Hey, you know what'd be cool? I got to review all these stupid postings to social media every day by the people on my team. I'm spending an hour a day on that, thinking about compliance. Like, could you set up an agent that will do that? Yeah, no problem, right? So
all right, I could see that having tremendous value because your typical RIA, even a mid-sized RIA or a large RIA, just does not have the staff on the compliance side to keep up with what an AI-assisted compliance program would be able to do. So they're all going to want to adopt something. If only to relieve some of the burden on their human staff.
Absolutely. And a lot of these people end up obviously having multiple roles. Like if the company's small enough, the CEO is probably also doing the compliance stuff. Like that's a huge
and trading and billing and everything.
We have 18,000 RIAs and more than half are pure, like, I don't want to say mom and pop pejoratively, but they literally are that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But to Michael's point, like they now have to vet an AI solution on top of all the other things that they're, even if it saves them time, it's still something that's probably going to be approached with some trepidation.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then you look at some of these, AI, wealth tech maps, and there's 50 things on there, or 60 things. Like how they're going to figure it out, right? Yeah.
Speaking of maps, Daniel, can we put up the 10-slide patent pending air system? So when I first looked at this, I said, "Oh, I like playing Twister also." But tell us what is going on here.
Yeah. So normally, if you're using a large language model like ChatGPT, the user, green on the left, just types something into the model and gets an answer. One of the problems there is, as you know, you can get hallucinations or wrong answers or whatever. And there are kind of two ways to solve that. One is get it great information aligned with the answer you're seeking. So for example, if you're asking about a stock, like, all right, we'll feed the large language model information about the stock as well as the prompt, right? And then it can get you a really good answer that's not going to hallucinate. It's going to have kind of the correct numbers in it. The other thing is to kind of have hallucination detection, which is one of the things we do in terms of, is the answer aligned with the question, right? So if you said, hey, what's the price of IBM? And it starts giving you a Shakespeare sonnet as the answer, clearly that's not what you were looking for, right?
Right.
So that's large. That's part of what we do. When you see the prompt filter there, the key there is we're intercepting everything everything people or the internet is trying to send to the AI before it gets there, looking for things like hacking attempts, toxic language, bias, personal information that you want to block, all of these different things, and kind of keeping the advisor and the company safe.
That's your prompt filter.
Yeah.
That's going to do that.
That's exactly right. Our prompt filter for the prompt, and then for the governance filter for documents and data coming in, doing the similar things, making sure you're not getting hacked, basically, when you're trying to use AI.
Okay. What? In closing, I want to ask you what you're most terrified of in the use of AI in financial services, but then I also want to ask you what you're most optimistic about. So let's take them in that order.
Yeah,
there's a lot of general fear about any new technology. In the case of AI, science fiction writers have been pondering the question of, what will this mean for humanity for, I don't know, decades, right? Well, now it's here. What is the thing that would, I don't want to say keeps you up at night, but could most easily go off the rails if we don't do this stuff correctly?
Yeah, I think there are two things there. One is if this turns into, we can fire a bazillion people and we get 20% unemployment 5 years from now, that's
well,
really
then you'll
bad.
run out of customers for whatever you do,
right.
So that'll solve itself pretty quickly.
But I think more narrowly, one of the big problems right now is like tons of AI is being used and it's completely not transparent, right? So if you apply for a car loan, guess what? AI is probably making that decision right now. Are you getting a car loan or not? And it's completely not transparent when someone gets turned down for a loan. Why is that, right? Is it because my credit score sucks, or did they go to Facebook and discover I'm a member of a group they don't like? I have no idea, and they're not telling you. So we're going to need to have more transparency around that. And you can end up in a situation where large financial institutions are turning people down for loans for the wrong reasons, or because the algorithm's bad, and then not telling people that, and not even knowing themselves why someone was turned down for a loan. So that's stuff like that, meaning lack of transparency and AI gone wrong, could be a real problem.
But that seems to be solvable. That doesn't seem like it's inherent to the technology. As we learned from Google recently, if you put the wrong guidance into the AI, it's going to get comically embarrassing results. But that seems like a human governance issue more than a technological issue.
Yeah, I agree with that. But my point is that right now, not a lot of attention's being paid to that, right?
Okay.
And so we're going to have to, really as citizens and as a society, make sure that big companies using AI to do things that are important for humans, like, are held to a standard, including transparency around, hey, why was I turned down for that loan?
Okay. What are you most optimistic about as AI becomes the premier technology of the coming decade or the existing decade?
Yeah, I think the dream really is everybody has the world's best co-pilot for their own job, right? And all that stuff you don't like about your job, like, oh my God, it's the end of the quarter and I got to send out, bills to investors and this and that or whatever, like that all goes away. Right, or I got to close my books and I'm up until midnight. In the CFO's
Are we even going to
office.
appreciate that though, or are we just going to get used to it? What do you think?
We'll get used to it pretty quickly. We're going to say, how do we ever live before this? Like same with the cell phone and GPS.
And then we're just going to get over it and it's like, this is how it works.
Yeah, what's next?
Exactly.
What's
I think
next?
that's totally right.
Okay.
3 years from now, everybody's like, what do we do without this?
So does the advisor of the next 5 years just become more efficient as a result of these tools? And maybe if we think the typical advisor at an RIA is managing 50 to 100 million. Maybe that number goes up to 250 million. And that's like the new marker of advisor capacity and success.
I think so too. I agree with that. I think to think about it, the way I think about it is the number of individual clients you can have will expand dramatically, right? Because you can spend the vast majority of time with them and serving them as opposed to doing all the other stuff that you need to do as an advisor, right?
Totally. If you cap out at 70 families, you'll be able to get to 100.
Exactly. But I think also you're going to see a breakup in terms of the ones that adopt AI going to 100 and the ones that don't, like all of a sudden remaining stagnant or even losing clients.
That's margin
right?
pressure. If all the firms in your space are able to do more with less, and you are not, like by definition, you will be a less profitable and thereby less successful business.
Yeah.
If you're not adopting, that's survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Okay. But so far in your conversations, it sounds like the people that you're speaking to, and maybe they're self-selecting because they're reaching out, but they want to do this. You're not getting people saying never. You might be getting people saying not yet. I want to wait and see somebody else get an SEC fine, and then I'll implement AI.
I have not met even one company or person out of hundreds that has said never, right?
Okay.
Most people are like, yes. There's a little bit of maybe pushback from legal, like we talked about before. And there's some, I want to wait and see what happens.
We're not technologists, and financial advisors are more on the conservative side in terms of like experimentation. Like obviously, if you're in this industry, you're in this industry because you are not a huge risk taker. Otherwise, you'd be at a hedge fund.
Well, also, you don't want to take a risk with your most sensitive data, with client information, with a company that's been around for 7 months.
Exactly. That's fair. And I think that as you get adoption of this on some of the platforms, and the platforms are like, this is what we're going to use.
Yeah, like the custodians.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're gonna start seeing. Well, I also mean the advisor platforms like LPL, the really big ones, right? You're going to start to see, they're using it, so we can use it.
Once there are people standardizing on something, it becomes less of a risk in the eyes of the person adopting it.
Right.
Okay, I agree with that. I think we're going to leave it there, Alec. I want to tell people how they can learn more about AI risk, and you have an excellent Substack that I also want them to be able to follow. So start with AI risk. Where should people go to learn more?
So pretty easy. Our website is aicrisk.com for corporate. And then my Substack is stayblog.substack.com.
Why is it called Stayblog?
So I started a while ago as for sustainability, technology, AI, and you. And a lot of it at the start was about, hey, how can AI help kind of solve the world's problems, right?
Okay. And how often are you writing?
I'm writing every couple of weeks, and the alternate weeks I've got a podcast there, which is either my AI Risk Reward podcast.
It's called AI Risk Reward?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of fun. That's basically interviewing people in the AI space about what are the risks and what are the rewards of using AI. And got one coming up with the head of large language model security research at Google. So look for that.
Very cool. We will do that. Alec Crawford, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on your reward. Congratulations on the successful launch of AI Risk. And we will follow your career with great interest, as they say.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, that's it from us, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Make sure you are subscribed to The Unlock. We have a link in the description below this video. We're going to be putting out increased flow of information for advisors, and you'll definitely find a lot of value there. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.